good happy Monday to everyone on this beautiful March 3rd day in 2025. We are coming to you from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana, from the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Facebook, we are on Roku, we're on Rumble, we are on YouTube. We love you all. It's going to be a really cool night. I want to take a quick second to thank our sponsors for our network. We love you guys. Carnation, y'all need to try this stuff. I actually do use this all the time. It's all over my kitchen. And I want to say to them, mwah, thank you. We have a wonderful guest coming on, one of my favorite human beings on the planet and beyond. And I'm just going to turn it right over to you, Preston.
Thank you, Dolly. Thank you all for joining us on what is now episode, if you can believe it, 97 of The Lightgate.
Wow.
We're almost at our 100th anniversary. That should be exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for joining us tonight, Monday. Very excited to see many familiar names and faces in chat. Love you all. Let's just say a quick hello to you before we get our wonderful guest into the show. So very happy that you could all join us. It's always amazing. We love you guys so much. And our first person in line is Scarlet Fire. We are the White Hats with our positive consciousness. Yes, you know, each person makes a difference. I've said it before. Countries have risen and fallen on the actions of one person. So it's always important to go out there and shine your light. So thank you, Scarlet Fire. We have Lori Sewick. I butcher names all the time. Sewick. You'll have to tell me. Love and peace and deepest gratitude, and huge apologies if I butchered your name. But thank you, Lori. I wanted to get here early as to secure a good seat. Yeah, you got the front row. So hello, Scuba Maru. We got Kaleidoscope Eyes from Knoxville, Tennessee.
I got to tell you something. My daughter's email is kaleidoscopeeyes08. And when I saw you show up, I thought you were my daughter at first. And then I realized, no, you're not. But thank you. I love this. This is a very cool handle.
We have Teresa Lavigne. And we have Jay Kirschman from Virginia, drinking Carnation and smashing that like button. Oh. We have Peak. Welcome back, Cheryl. No. My legacy data wrangling hero.
All right.
Yes, that is our guest tonight, Cheryl Costa. I will introduce her in mere minutes. We have Mountain Dan.
Hey.
Greetings, fellow Earthlings and Contactees. It's like contactees, but with a V from Tennessee.
Like a volunteer state. Contactees, yeah.
We have the Owl Man. Happy Monday. Michael Kennedy bringing the popcorn.
No. Yeah. Kylie, we love you.
Namaste. What can I say? We adore you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. ... Infinity squared. Thank you. Arvo, woohoo. Let's see. We got Sunny Burnett. Looking forward to another great show. And Louise, you guys are amazing.
Hi, Louise. We love you.
We have Andy Two Dogs in the house waiting to watch.
Cool. I like
and
that.
Raul Melendez. Very happy to be here for another exciting show.
Raul.
Thank you, Raul. Your generosity is truly appreciated.
Yep.
We just love how you guys support us and help us to do this show.
Yep.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It means so much. Evan B. Hello, friends.
Oh, cool. Hello.
We have Walking Trees and the Midi Clan. We have quite a nice little crowd here already.
Yeah.
Brian Morgan. It's going to be fun going through the light gate. Yes. Got Poetic Poems. Kaj Vardinghus all the way from Brazil. It's so awesome. Hey, Kaj. Hope you're doing well. Star Orchid. Oh, my gosh.
Thank you.
Contribution to making Mondays amazing. So sweet. Thank you, Star Orchid. We love you. Thank you. We have Janie Mashburn. We have quite a few people in here tonight. The Spanksy Fox. I'm not sure if you're here before. I love it. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Thanks for joining chat. Scale Tipper. So glad to see Cheryl on tonight. She's a pal. Yeah. we've come to love her very quickly. Who else we have here? We have Derek Mulligan, all the way from Dublin, Ireland.
Hi.
John Markey. If anyone asks, I wasn't here. All right. I won't say a word.
Yep.
Spot on pronunciation. Brilliant. Okay, good. No, I don't feel so bad. Bob Thorson.
Hey, Bob.
Amazing, Bob. Thank you. You guys always deliver for us. Warms my heart. Thanks so much, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Amazing. We have Grace from Michigan. We have, our Star Kids loved you on SNX live last night.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
That was a fun show. Over 2 hours. We have Randy of the Redwoods. Made it. Awesome. Well, Andy is from Winthrop Harbor, Illinois, my home state.
Oh, wow. That's very cool.
We have Pam Harris. And we have Justin Sane. And Dana Matthews.
Hey, Dana.
We have Tanya Martinez. Hola, Preston. Oh, hola. ¿Qué tal? ¿Están bien? I don't know a whole lot of Spanish, but I know a little. Thanks for joining us, Tanya. Let's see. Who else do we have here? We have Sally Zedillo. And we better get started.
Right.
Oh, wait, one more. Luis Suarez. Greetings from Buenos Aires.
Ooh, very nice.
That's Argentina. Thank you, Luis. Thanks very much for joining us. Okay, let us get started. Tanya. Sí, muy bien. Wonderful. Okay. I am going to introduce our guest now. Let me just pop up the little ticker there because Cheryl has waited very patiently in the green room. Thank you, Cheryl. Tonight we are so excited to welcome back Cheryl Costa for her second appearance.
More than that.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Well,
like third.
Right.
Yeah.
At any rate, either way, I will just give you a brief introduction for those of you who haven't had the chance to see her before on our show. She wears many hats, has done many things. Get this, she's a reverend, a pagan priestess, a Tibetan Yogini, this is so cool, a trans activist, a UFO columnist, a UFO researcher and author, and a novelist. Someone definitely after my heart here. During the Cold War, Cheryl served in the Air Force and the Navy. Thank you for your service. It's so appreciated. As a government contractor, a two-service military veteran, USAF and USN, a retired professional from the aerospace industry. So accomplished, Cheryl. Really impressive. Also a journalist. She was a UFO columnist for the Roswell Daily Record and wrote the wildly popular UFO column New York Skies for the Syracuse NewTimes.com. Holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from the State University of New York in entertainment writing and production. And in 2018, this is so cool, was awarded the UFO Researcher of the Year by the International UFO Congress, which is huge. She's authored dozens of books, some with her wife, Linda, in a variety of genres, actually, including a series of very valuable and important UFO reference books, which provide undeniable proof that UFOs are being seen all over the world. You can find her link in the show description, which will lead you to some really amazing treasures. But let's just bring Cheryl on before the show gets too...
Hi! Hi, Cheryl! Thanks for coming on.
We appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining us. Always a pleasure. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Considering I've been in heavy antibiotics for 2 weeks, I'm feeling great now.
There's stuff going around.
Sometimes, yeah.
That's the trials of living on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, we're excited to have you back. Amazing. So,
where would you like to start?
Let's start.
Okay, let me qualify something. Short of certain things I did in the Navy, and short of things I did after the Navy, and my ATM PIN number, those are off limits. But everything, my life is an open book.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for those who, because we always have a few new people, and it's always good to have a little refresher course because our memory these days. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, how it all rolled out for you, and we can start just letting the conversation roll.
You mean in terms of like UFOs?
Anything. How life rolled out.
When you were a little kid. That's how I would like to start.
Yeah, I was a little. Okay, I was a little Catholic boy. Okay, and hey, things happen. You have no idea how much radiation I took once. So it started out in Catholic school. I was a good Catholic boy. Oh. And where I got into trouble is I descend from little Portuguese and Azores magic women on my paternal mother's side. Okay, on my maternal mother's side is a line of clairvoyance. So needless to say, sending me to Catholic school was complicated because I would argue with the nuns because I was aware of things that they certainly weren't aware of, And so, one of your classmates' dad died last week type of thing. Oh, he's in heaven with God. And I'm looking over there and he's sitting on the file cabinet looking at his son, Yeah. So I got in trouble with the nuns. By the time I got into 5th grade, they wouldn't come near me with a 10-foot pole. And they, at one point back when I was in 3rd grade, they sent me over to see the pastor, and I had lunch with him every Wednesday. I sat in the kitchen, his housekeeper put a little lunch on, usually a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something like that, and a big cookie and a glass of milk. And he sat there with one of those big old gray Wallace sack tape recorders. Okay. And he would sit there and he would talk. And you got to imagine what this guy looks like. I didn't, Paper Chase hadn't happened. That movie happened with John Houseman in the 80s, right? I remember. But later, when I saw Paper Chase, I said, "Oh my God, Father Guilfoyle!" I mean, the guy's a ringer for him, right? He had that whole look. We are priests, And so, he had me over every Wednesday for over a year to share with him my visions because the kids in my class would say, "Hey, Costa can tell us what we are going to get for our birthday." Oh, he's just guessing, and then the kid would get it, And so at one point they had me, he was talking to me. He says, I told him I had this really troubling dream. He says, "Well, what was it?" And I said, "I saw one of the nuns." And I told him what nun, and she fell down a flight of stairs. She breaks her leg. There's bone. There's blood. There's a red ribbon around her. There are dragons and swords. He wrote it all down. 3 months later, the 5th grade teacher is helping the 6th grade teacher correct medieval studies artwork. Okay. They put those rugs down through wooden staircases and they put like a little brass bar on them to hold them in the
tapestries. Yeah.
Yeah, one of those came loose and the whole thing came undone. She went head over tin cup down the stairs and broke a compound fractured her calf. Okay. And she was lying there at the bottom of the stairs and there were 6th grade art students, art of dragons, swords, and shields because they were studying the Crusades.
Wow.
Yep.
I left the Catholic school that year. I had a lot of encouragement to go to public school. So
yeah.
Wow.
My mother was really good friends with a Catholic monk. My mother was Episcopalian and my father was Catholic turned Episcopalian. He was also Jewish. Okay. And I had a weird childhood, and he started hanging around and coming to lunch and dinner with us suddenly because foretelling is not my thing. I do psychometry really easily. If I touch you or get in your vicinity, I'm reading you like a book. Okay. And my mother realized it was happening and she had somebody over and I looked at my mother and I went into shock. And she's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And she's like, "Don't say it." Okay. And I did, and I kept my mouth shut. And after her friend left, I said, "She's going to die today." And my mom said, no. And she did. She passed away in a car wreck. Okay. She was hit and she died in the car wreck. That's when this monk showed up and he started talking to me all the time. And he said, "When did this start for you?" I mean, he was asking me very pointed questions. And I would not answer him, because if I did, I felt like I was giving away something of myself that they're going to use against me.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah,
And
I get it.
I did not want to talk to him. And he finally cornered me once. We had to take the dogs to the vet, and he loves St. Bernards too. He had St. Bernards as well. And so we went to the vet together, him and I and our dogs, because my mom was too busy, which was a setup. I know this. And when we were in the car, the station wagon, he turned to me and he said, "I'm psychic too."
Oh, there you go.
And I was shocked, and I said, "Really?" And
He
I said,
came out of the closet for you.
"Yeah."
Wow.
He said, "Your mother's concerned that you don't know how to handle it." And I said, "Oh, I know how to handle it." I said, "I don't think you do." And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Because you're a monk. That isn't okay what you're doing. You're not evolving the way you should." And he stared at me really, really hard. And I left it at that. Our families were still friends and everything. I saw him throughout my life, but he stopped talking to me about it after that. And I don't know if he took it to heart or not or whatever, but I have a tendency to do that to people. I can read you that deeply. Okay.
They get creeped out. Trust me.
I know.
I always love it when people read me. I think it's very cool.
No, a lot of people really get creeped out. Trust me, Preston.
Yeah,
I know. I've seen it.
I have been chased down the street. Get away from me! Got a couple of bloody noses. That kind of thing.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not fun.
No.
Now, let me add to that, so your audience will since we're sort of on the spiritual paranormal plane here. Okay, I was going to be my younger boy self. Okay, he who will not be named. We simply refer to him as the princess. We decided to try and go for a holy vocation.
Okay.
And I was one of those my first communion partner and myself. She actually just celebrated 35 years in a convent.
Wow.
Okay.
That's major. Okay.
Amazing story, amazing lady. She used to work in the federal government, and so, but away from that. I was supposed to go when I graduated. This is 1970. I was supposed to go to a monastery up in the Finger Lakes. So I grew up in upstate New York, and I was going to be there for the summer and retreat, kind of like, monk boot camp kind of thing, get you kind of in a spiritual frame of mind. And then I was supposed to start seminary in the fall. Okay. It was April 17th, the Friday that the Apollo 13 astronauts got back from their messed up trip to the moon.
Disaster, yeah.
So I was down there back in those days. There used to be like 4 priests in a rectory, and there was always a young one who's in his 20s, just got out of seminary or something like that. So I was down there polishing the cars, washing the cars with him. Okay, so we got invited to come in. It wasn't a dinner at the big table in the other room. We all sat around, shorts, t-shirts, watching a little black and white TV set. Humphrey Brinkley,
Yeah.
The whole thing, right? I'm hating myself seriously here. Yeah. And they had a side story other than the astronaut story, and they showed us this bony little baby someplace in West Africa.
Mm-hmm.
It was skeletons with skin. Honest, they were terrible. And I'm sorry, I'm a soft heart. Dog, kid, horse movies, baby. I just bawl my eyes out, right? Old Yeller died. Oh, it was terrible. And that was the reason my parents didn't let me go to a lot of movies, because they were embarrassed of me because their kid cried like a little girl, So the bottom line was, the pastor looked at me. He says, liquor on his breath, just so. And he says, "You're going to be a priest. You're going to have to be stronger than that." And I tried to just roll with it. And, I'll try and be much better. He wouldn't let it go. The next thing you know, it got into a knockdown, drag out shouting match, and they pulled my sponsorship.
Oh, wow.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Things happen for a reason.
Yeah. Oh, it gets fun. So I didn't have any other plans. So I joined the Air Force as soon as I graduated. That was April. It was like 2 months later. I'm graduating from high school, and I joined the Air Force. My electronic shop teacher was a retired Air Force sergeant, high-tech sergeant, and he says, "Hey, this is your poor kid. This is where you go." And I was in a poor family, so it made sense. So I went in the Air Force. Okay. About 18 months later, I volunteered for Vietnam. Okay.
Wow.
And,
Girl, wow.
but understand, I was a transsexual kid. Okay. There was a book back in 1969 called Everything You Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask by Dr. Rubin.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, you can buy in any supermarket right there.
Exactly. Yeah.
I finally bought a copy of it, seeing if I could try and find something that would explain to me what I am. Okay. Now, I'd read a lot of other stuff in the library. There wasn't a lot in those days, but I got it interlibrary loan. How many high school kids know how to use an interlibrary loan? Okay. Boom. So I read this thing one Friday night, and he said that trans people are mutilated homosexual transvestites. I volunteered for Vietnam on Monday morning.
Wow.
I am going to make a man out of myself or die trying.
Oh.
And that was the view. Okay. And this isn't the nice, cushy community we have of trans people. It was very secretive in those days.
Right.
So I volunteered for Vietnam.
It's a tough road. Yeah.
I got orders 4 weeks later. They couldn't give that kind of an assignment away. Okay.
Right.
So I got orders, my choice where I wanted to go. So I went to a place called Cam Bay. Okay. And it's central part of the country. And it's not jungle. It's like a big sandbar. It's like Virginia Beach. It's just sand as far as you can see. So we actually went through desert survival school, had different kinds of boots and all this kind of stuff, right?
Wow.
All right. I was a telephone construction person. Okay. So a telephone relay station out in the jungle got shot up.
Oh.
Me and a sergeant had to go out there. We had some Army guys. They were the real warrior types that took us out there to do this stuff. I was trained in all this stuff. I mean, I was qualified in a whole bunch of weapons, but they were the really combat guys. Okay. So we're out there and we're just finishing up and we come under attack. Okay. My sergeant and I are just buried in the dirt, letting their grunts take care of the business. Right. And firefights only last about 5 or 10 minutes. And one of the Army guys, takes this round in the chest. And it was a classic breathing chest wound. My sergeant and I were trying to stuff battle dressings into him. And the kid looks up at me with his big baby blue eyes and said, "Father, baptize me."
Oh.
And I said, "Sarge, let's just keep working, right?" And he looks up at me again. He says, he says, "Baptize me, Father." I said, "I'm not a priest. I'm a telephone man." And finally, you shut him up. I was a good Catholic kid. I knew the drill. I took my canteen out and I, baptized him and everything. That shut him up for a while. When this firefight was over, we got a Huey to come in and aerovac us out. And I went with him. And the medic is with me. And he says, "I don't know. He doesn't look too good here." I said, "Oh, goodness gracious. All right." I got out my M16 oil and I gave him last rites. Okay. Wow. Again, I knew the drill. And he's alive. He owns a dairy farm in Wisconsin.
That's awesome.
Oh.
Classic cheesehead, But every now I get a Christmas card every year from him.
Oh, wow.
That's fantastic.
So that was one of those goofy stories that happens. Okay. Well, the base chaplain heard about it, thought this was fantastic. I told him a little story about the Apollo 13 astronauts and the argument and such, and they wrote this beautiful letter back to my parish. And oh my God, this war hero thing did this chaplaincy thing out under fire and da da da. And so they wanted me back, and the Air Force was willing to let me go to seminary. I said no. I said, I had enough of this. I said, "Can I use that special treatment? Can I get a second set of overseas orders here in the Far East?" And they said, "Sure. What do you want to go?" I said, "Japan." And they sent me to Japan. Okay.
How old were you at this point?
19.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So that gives you a sense of it. All right. So I hung out with people I got exposed to certain things, a lot of spiritual stuff. I had a bunch of Native American guys working on our telephone construction team. We worked a lot up in Korea. Why did we go to Korea a lot? Out of Japan? We were mobile telephone construction. Okay. And in 1969, this is 1972. Okay. 1969, the Pueblo got captured by the North Koreans.
Right.
They had the crew in prison camp. Okay. And what the Pentagon figured out, nobody had upgraded the telephone system in the military telephone system in Korea since the Korean War, 30 years before.
That's right.
So the Air Force was doing what they called a scheme. We were literally building a telephone system for the military in South Korea. Okay? So we got to live on the economy, and it was terrific. We slept in regular hotels and things like this, and that was the flavor of it. Okay, skip ahead a little bit. Let's see. I get out because my hometown got wiped out in the flood. Okay. Later, I joined the Navy. Okay. And I'm in nuclear submarines. Volunteer for nuclear submarines. That manly thing to do, right? You know?
Yeah.
Okay. And Cold War nuclear submariner, collected electronic and photo intelligence. What is that?
That's my pump.
Oh, okay, good, all right. And the bottom line in this whole thing was, all these guys, people don't get about submarines is you're not doing something all the time. You're working like a three-part shift type of thing.
Really?
So there was a whole bunch of us. We had people who played Dungeons and Dragons in one place in the ship. We had people who played Dungeons and Dragons in another part of the ship. And there was about 25 of us that were into deep spiritual reading. We were reading about a God of Gita. I didn't ever hear that name again until Ancient Aliens came out, you know. But we read everybody's spiritual books. We argued about it, you know, in the cafeteria, off shift, and things like this.
Wow.
Because being on that submarine underwater for 90 days someplace was like being in a monastery.
Yep.
Funny how that works, you know. So here we go. Okay, so I basically was initiated Wiccan in the North Atlantic on Inbulk, which would be the 2nd of February, 1977, by 8 other crew members. It was done very secretly. To be Wiccan in the Navy in those days was a court-martial offense, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
seriously? Wow. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
it was. You couldn't practice this pagan faith on military installations.
Right.
In those days, that rule didn't get broken until probably mid 70s. It started in Texas with one of the bases down there. A coven of Air Force personnel asked for permission, and the general went along with it. Says, "Hey, we have freedom of religion in this country. You know, do it." You know, and it gradually got better. All right, so fine. Spin ahead. Here we are, 1997. I am a senior Wiccan priestess. Okay.
Okay.
Always believed in reincarnation. I told my first grade nun when she was talking about monasteries and things, and they were teaching us about other religions, said, you know, I used to be in a monastery. And she's, yeah, that's nice, you know and everything. All right. So a girlfriend buddy of mine, went, another priestess, we went to hear this High Lama speak in a temple in Maryland. And they decided to have this big reception line out in the parking lot. Yeah, like 250 people out there. So this little guy, he's 5 foot nothing. He's got an entourage of monks, okay, American and Buddhist, or American and Tibetan, and they're all Buddhist monks, and they're kind of following along behind him. And he comes up, he's shaking hands. He gets to me, he shakes hands. He won't let go of my hand. He goes into that European handshake thing, gets up in my face and says, I know you. His Holiness, I've not met you in this lifetime. He said, oh no, I've worked with you 2, 3, 4 times, fast 400 years. He looks at his monk friend and says, these two, they always hang out together. I know her too. And points to the other, my buddy.
Oh my God.
So his one of his senior monks, this guy is built like Rosie Greer, white guy, but built like Rosie Greer. He leans into me and says, I've been with him 15 years. He plays it close to his chest. I've only seen him do that 2 other times. And one of them was an hour ago with a lady from Australia who's here today.
Wow.
Within 6 months, all 3 of us were nuns.
Wow.
And I was ordained a yogini to boot,
Wow.
He explained to me what I was, and I had been this kind of there's in the Tibetan Orthodox tradition, there's 4 great traditions in Tibet. There's the Orthodox tradition, the Kagyu, Sakyu, and the Galupa. Galupa is the Reform. That's what the Dalai Lama is. The Orthodox people, we think he's kind of a bit of a radical, but it's okay. He's a great guy. But in the Tibetan Orthodox tradition, when Padmasambhava came up, he was a great teacher in India. And when he went to Tibet about 1,200 years ago, the first people he taught Buddhist technology to, it's less a religion and more of a technology.
Right.
The people he taught technology to were the shamans. So the Tibetan Orthodox tradition has 2 traditions, your regular burgundy and yellow sutric monks, buzz cuts, all that kind of thing. And then they also have the shaman ones, which are the yoginis. They dabble in magic. They can be married, okay, but you have to have an equally qualified consort or wife, okay, and they wear burgundy and white, okay. So I was a Buddhist nun for a time, a temporary robes, because I wanted to see if I really was. I knew about this stuff, and it was like putting on a favorite set of slippers.
Yeah.
The monk at the monastery, when I was given permission by the local Lama, not the High Lama, but the local Lama, I said, I'd like to take temporary robes. He says, go get the haircut. So I went out and got a navy buzz cut.
Where is this?
This is in Maryland.
Okay.
This is in Maryland. And I was given permission to wear temporary robes. Okay. So I went and got the buzz cut. Now understand, I'm 5 years past my transgender transition. I was Miss Corporate Success, big makeup, big hair, big nails, charcoal suit, red powder, my nickname at Lockheed Martin headquarters was Napoleon in Heels. Project manager talk. But so the bottom line was the monk at the monastery, the senior monk, I went to go get a set of robes. He looked at me and says, I don't like you. I don't care what the local Lama said. I don't like you. I don't think you should be in robes, and I'm not going to give you a set. You're confused. You don't know what you are. I said, I know exactly what I am. You don't know what I am. And okay, for your audience, I know exactly what I am. I am a unity being. I am the blend of both.
Okay. Right. We're all that, all of us.
All of us are that anyway,
yes,
but
exactly.
I had to qualify that for him.
Right.
So he wouldn't give me robes. I'm an old theater person, so I went home and I said, hey, what can be too hard? And I sat there and I made a set of robes over. First time I wear them in the temple, the other 30 nuns and the 8 monks are, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. Oh my God, we don't wear it like that. Oh, you did a terrible job. And they 2 months later, High Lama comes to town, and about 6 of them went over and tattled. So his aide calls me up, says, come on over, he wants to talk to you. I said, oh, all right, here we go. So I go over there to see him. I come in the door, bow a little bit to him. He's making tea, and he looks at me. He says, turn around. So I turned around. He says, turn around real slow. And I turned around real slow. And he looks at me. He says, He says, you're still having difficulty with rebirth and reincarnation concepts, aren't you? I said, well, I am a Westerner. We're not exactly taught that, He says, how did you know how to make an early 19th century set of robes?
That's it.
And I said, that's what I did. And he said, that's exactly what you did. And you're wearing them like they did. And they said, you're wearing them like Sanag did. And that's the guy he recognized in me. So I said, want me get other robes? He said, no, go ahead. They're perfectly legitimate robes. They're just an older style, but that's fine with you because after all, you're just a Sanag in a new bodysuit, baby.
Yeah.
And that's the flavor. So this is kind of the spiritual journey I've been on. And I was in a monastery for 7 years in Buddhist nun robes. And then I asked for permission to drop those robes and go back to a civilian and a yogini style. So I only wear my yogini robes, although I'm in a UU church and they're sending me to Buddhist chaplain school in about 3 weeks.
Holy cow. Oh, wow. That's very cool.
Yeah, we got a lot of Buddhists in our thing, and there's about a dozen different traditions of Buddhism, and I'm the only Tibetan Orthodox there. So they asked me to go do the chaplain thing. So I told you a long story, but for your listeners, understand this is just a chicken soup. This is just a new car you're driving this time around. Trust me, you've lived millions of lifetimes, some as animals, some as insects, whatever, and you've had precious human rebirths. And this is just another time. In my case, I'm 72 years old, and my doctor was looking at me how bad off I was last week. And I said, Doc, this is just it's an old car. I'm wearing out, I'll get a new one, and the doc had the strangest look on her face, when I said that. I'm open to your audience's questions at this point.
Yeah, we've gone down the rabbit hole, so we're going to keep going in that direction. I want to tell you something. When I was born, I knew who I was. Okay, there was no doubt in my mind. Laying there, an infant my mom had a pram, and they put me in the pram. Comes off the wheels, and they put it in the back seat of the car. And when I was 4 weeks old, they drove to Florida from Georgia because my dad had to go. And I was laying there, and I remember putting my foot up and staring at my foot. And I actually knew to count my toes. I went, oh, I got 5 toes. And I was like, okay, I'm human. I know where I am. And then I got pissed off because I wasn't sure why I'd done that. Because, you're a little goofy at first, okay? And it plagued me until I was about 7, 8 years old. Now, in this amount of time, I've driven my parents completely crazy because I'm acting out every prior life I've had in the last couple thousand years.
Yeah.
From language to dressing, communicating, the whole thing. Okay. And it made my mother crazy because she's like, what are you doing? They couldn't understand where I was getting this from. I knew what I was doing. I was acting out, I was actually coming up to my last life is what I was doing. I was walking through it, remembering. When I made it to the last one, I realized, oh, now I know why I'm here. Okay. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I know why I'm here. And I couldn't talk to my dad or my mother about it. I had to talk to somebody on the ET side because they were never going to understand me, never. And one of the things that I can tell you is that people recognize you. You're exactly right. I go through life all the time and people will look me dead in the face and say, I know who you are. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they'll say, you were in this time period and I was with you as your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I run into it constantly. One of the weirdest things I ever did to my family was we had a Krishna compound in the Glades, and I found them, and I went and semi-joined. I was like, their little kid. What do you want to call them? It got crazy. They asked my parents if I could go to the airport with them. I kid you not, and they taught me everything they could teach me in that amount of time. And what I didn't tell them was it was easy for me because I already knew it. Okay. That's how weird I am, okay? And after that, I got faced off with the fact that my father wanted me to study all religions. He was one of those people. He said, you can't understand religion until you know them all. Well, he said, which one do you want to do first? And I went straight to Buddhism. I want to do Buddhism. I know this. I know I need to do this one first. And when I started diving in, I was like, oh, yeah, everything I am is based in that, literally based in Buddhism.
In that flavor that you were talking about with as a little kid, being conscious of it. I remember being potty trained. Okay. And he had me on the potty, and the older consciousness is there. And I get to remember this to this day. I thought to myself, I suppose I'm a little kid again, so I suppose I should act cute. And when I was 4, I came to her one Saturday morning. He says, Mom, can you give me a cigarette?
Okay.
She just was appalled. Okay. What we didn't understand was on the surface was my previous life. I was on a U-boat in the Nazi Navy during World War II. And we were sunk on 16 April 1945.
Wow.
Off the coast of Boston. We were ran by a ship. And I was one of the people who didn't get out and suffocated on the ship and things like this.
Wow.
So for a long time, I had terror dreams as a child that I was being smothered. Okay.
Right.
Wow.
And so, but it took a while. Now, after I got in the monastery, I was given some exercises, and I
Mm-hmm.
was able to touch. Now, don't ask me for name and serial number, as I say, but I was able to touch upwards of 50 of my past lives with a grasp of about the last 15 to 20. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
people will say, well, I'd like to know what it likes. You're you. You just had a different
Right.
face, you
Right.
know,
Exactly.
but it's still you. Look in the mirror. It's still you. Okay.
Yep.
And they say, well, I want to know what I was. I said, most people are peasants. Okay. And I said, people said, you died in that submarine? I said, yeah. I died of a fever in Japan in the late 19th century. I died of a illness in Tibet in the early 19th century. Other times, let's see, what is it? Spears, arrows, childbirth.
All of it. Yeah.
You know,
Starvation, torture.
Knife in the back. Yeah.
it's the same old thing, you know.
Yeah.
So that is an understanding that I have, and several other yoginis that I've worked with over the years. We've had really deep conversations about this. Okay. And it's, again, they don't teach it here. You know, here they teach you, hey, you die, you go to heaven, you know. No, it's not like that. Okay. It's not like that. And you're in a place of rest for some period of time. And till there's, as they say, a body going south, you know, the next bus out, you know, type of thing, you know, unless you really push it, and then they give you a disposable and you end up in like a dog or a cat or something, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think at some point
I just said that.
Well, I think it's a natural progression. At some point, people are going to start remembering their past lives as they're traveling along this pathway towards spiritual evolution.
Yeah.
It's sort of a necessary step,
Right.
I think. Or
I think a lot of people are trying to remember. I think that they have a lot of, you know, you see kids when they're young and they have all these weird proclivities. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's literally past lives coming through to them. You know, it's like, oh, I can't handle this, you know, or I want to do this so bad. I don't know why. Oh, yes, you do.
Remember that kid from Victorville?
Yeah.
They found out he was.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Yeah, there was a kid from Victorville who suddenly had memories of being a Tibetan. I think he was quite highly placed. He's in, you know, Tibet right now.
Yeah. The tukus. Yeah.
He recognized all his you know, his little bowl and all that stuff.
After the 18 months after I had been met by this Lama, okay, these other monks, senior monks, would come to town to give a teaching at the local temple type of thing, and they would ask for me, and I somebody would call me up on the phone. I'd come over to see him, and they come over and they say, Sanag, nice to see you. Sanag was the other guy's name. Okay. One guy sat down, wanted to do a charcoal sketch. I sat down, gave him a charcoal sketch. When I saw it, I was appalled because it was Asian. He saw me differently, you know.
Yeah.
Another goofy thing, phobias for one thing.
Oh yes, definitely.
Okay.
Phobias. Yeah.
And the thing you can do with 4-year-olds, now those of you moms that are sitting out there who have like 3 or 4-year-olds, you can't ask them directly. But here's how you do it. You sit down on the floor and play with them. And while you're playing with their blocks and their little cars, you can say something like, so what kind of car did you used to drive? And the little kid will sometimes say, oh, I used to drive an Eldorado. I used to drive a Jaguar. Or some car that 3 or 4-year-old kid shouldn't know anything about. The one kid told me a Cordoba. I'm going, huh?
My nephew, he's like, I was a taxi driver.
yeah, exactly. And when you hear these news stories about a 5-year-old kid walking out, getting in their dad's car, starting it up and driving down the street, that's the old personality driving that car, you know?
Yep.
And so this is some of the stuff that comes along with this stuff. And when I hear people say, you know, I keep trying to tell people, oh, that reincarnation stuff, there's nothing to it. No, there's a lot to it. Trust me. I wasn't exactly a believer in that stuff myself. I mean, I had a feel for it, but it wasn't until it was handed to me in a technical sense. I know you.
But there are all kinds of, not just phobias, you know, your desires, the way you dress, your talents, all these things are indicators.
Yeah, my last life was my biggest remembrance when when I was trying to come to it. When I did, it shocked me. And I knew things about this person that nobody else would have known other than their family. And years and years and years later, they started talking about this person. And oh, yeah, here it is. You know, it confirmed it for me. It was like, yep, there it is. There it is. There it is. I know exactly how this person felt. I know how I died. I remember the moment of my death. I literally walked out of my body. I had a major heart attack and just gone. You know, the body dropped and I was standing there going, oh, you know, I was young too. It is amazing to me that everything that this person did, I've repeated in this life to some degree in one way or the other. And even into my personal life. And it's because I didn't finish. I needed to finish. It was one of the paths that I was on, and I had to finish it. Had to. And when I finally achieved that, I was like, okay, now I feel better. Now what's next? You know?
Well, it's interesting, Cheryl. You went right back onto a submarine after having
interesting. That's
Okay,
right.
Do you know where that came from? I was in the Navy, just gotten in. I was going to tech school in Great Lakes.
Yep.
And Special Services had a tour bus going downtown to the Museum of Science and Industry. They have a U-boat cut in half down there. Okay, and they give tours. Yeah. Well, I'm there with my sailor friends, and of course, everything's in German. I don't speak German. Son of a gun! This is the blow valves. These are the trim valves. This is this. This is that. And the tour guy says, "Wow, you study these things?" And I said, "I must have." And as submariners, you have to know every inch of that boat, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a crazy experience to have that. And to the gentleman who said, Andrew, you asked if all my incarnations happen on Earth. That's complicated. I've touched 50 lifetimes. They're all Earth lifetimes. Okay, but let us say that the deeper I dug, remember I spent an awful, that was back in 97 through the early 2000s. I'm still practicing. Okay. I've been deeper and deeper and deeper. I could probably honestly say to you, and this is complete honesty, yes, I've had off-world life. Can I give you a lot of detail? Can I give you phone numbers on that planet? No, I can't. Okay. But I am conscious of the fact that this is very different than another place I used to live.
Do you remember any famous lifetimes where you were influential or a well-known figure?
Most people are not well-known figures.
Right.
Okay. I mean, people think they want to be a king or a queen.
I have one.
No, okay. The one prior to the one prior to the German sailor, I refer to him as Dieter. That's not his real name, but I refer to him as Dieter. He was an electrician. So guess what? I was into electronics, and I took electrician arts in high school. You know, instead of metal shop, I took electrician art, that type of thing. And it was like putting on an old pair of gloves. It was familiar to me. But okay, the lifetime before the German sailor was in Japan. Okay, and I didn't really know that much about it. Okay, I interviewed for a job at a Galupa monastery in Vancouver, British Columbia, okay, Canada. I went up there. I interviewed on the phone. This was a senior nun. She's like one of the first 3 Americans ever ordained Tibetan nuns. Okay, back in the early 60s, and she ran a small center up there. And it was like a bed and breakfast. It used to be an old nursing home, and he ran it like a bed and breakfast. And people who were out on the Buddhist teachers who were out on the circuit teaching, they would give them free lodge and board there during their rest periods between major speaking engagements and things. And that way their local congregation, or Sangha as we call it in Buddhism, got to have all these great teachers come to town. The problem was the other nuns that she had in the placement, 4 or 5, and they were all what I'm going to call, I hate to say it this way, Susie Airhead moonbeam types. Okay. And they couldn't see to it that the garbage got out on the right day and the electric bill got paid and that kind of thing, because the senior nun was the senior Buddhist chaplain for the entire Canadian prison system, and it kept her on the road about 5 days a week.
Wow.
Okay, so she was looking for somebody to be her executive officer and make things got done. So I was a staffer at Lockheed Martin. I was totally qualified to do that kind of thing, So I told her that on the phone. She says, "Come on up, fly up, spend a week with me." So I took some vacation. I had tons of it. So I went up and we sat there and we talked. And one day I channeled somebody for her, not intentionally, but she was talking about a particular thing. And suddenly I'm answering the questions for her on something I should know nothing about. But it was channeling. It was not my pit memories. Well, you went to a museum up there, Northwest art kind of stuff, right? And in the museum, at one point, we got looking at these stuff from Japan, and there was these little geisha dolls. And she says, "Okay," she says, "I don't know how you haven't been a Buddhist that long. Are you okay with past life stuff?" I said, "Yeah, I've already gotten a good baptism of that stuff." She says, "Well, you died of a fever in Yokosuka, and I was one of the senior geishas in our household." And she told me my name. And that explained why I had a fascination with geishas when I was doing history stuff in high school.
Yeah, I have a fascination with them also. I was a geisha, but I was under a shogun. Okay. Shogun. Okay. And I did something completely stupid and wrong. I totally lost faith. I lost faith with everything. And harikari, I committed harikari. And I remember being terrified the entire time that I did it, because it
takes a long time. People think it's over with after you stab yourself. No.
That's not how that works. You have somebody with you.
Hours and hours.
And sometimes there's an audience, okay?
And they want to make sure you're going to die.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
All your debtors and collectors. Yeah. Everybody wants to
people
show
who were
up.
accusing me were there.
I can't believe I just had this conversation with 300 and 400,000 people.
It was
You're getting your money's worth.
One of my most incredible moments. And I couldn't explain it to my father. My father lived in Japan for a long time, for Korea and all that. He spoke Japanese, fluent Japanese. And he brought me some stuff from Japan. And I bawled my guts out because he brought me a little wooden geisha doll. And I sat there and cried all over it. I mean, I just fell down and just went straight to pieces. And he said, "What's wrong with you?" And I held her to my heart. And I said,
there you go.
I couldn't talk about
That's
it.
how
I remembered. And samurai swords, harikari swords, were in my house. He had them. Okay. And I never went near them. I wouldn't touch them. I wouldn't look at them. I didn't want anything to do with them. And they just thought I was obeying the rule, don't touch.
Yeah.
Okay. But it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with that and that. And that's when I it hit me that I remembered that life. It was tragic as hell. I never had children. Nothing. I was young when that happened to me.
My friends asked me, all my friends, especially running the pagan community or the gaming community, a lot of tattoos and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I was like, "Cheryl, you don't have a single tattoo."
Okay? Yeah.
And my answer to them is, I was in the intelligence services at a later point in my career, and we're not allowed to have the tattoos.
No tattoos nowhere on this body.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
It's not like that now, though, because they're covered with tattoos.
Well, yeah,
no.
Special force type people, that type of thing, UDT SEALs, those kinds of guys.
Yeah.
If they want to get in that and they got tattoos, they got to get them laser burned off.
That's right.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what you cannot have the tattoos.
Can't have any body identifying marks on your body. No.
And minimal, you got scars, whatever. But the goofy thing, though, is in that context. Now, if you ask me privately why I don't have any tattoos.
Okay.
Used to be a dragon that looked over my shoulder out at you that went all the way down my back and down my leg.
Wow.
Okay. That was her body tattoo. Remember, we were living art forms, so that's what she had. Okay. That I remember because that was painful and I remember the pain.
Well, I had one past life thing happen. Well, several, but one that really struck me hard was my sister-in-law and I went to visit this guy who says, "Let me play guitar for you." Turns out he could play Spanish guitar like nobody. And I lost my mind. I streamed
Still
tears till I
Yeah.
actually soaked my shirt.
Yeah.
He's like, "Is he okay?" And my sister's like, and I was like, "Yeah, he'll be fine." Well, I was not fine. To this day, I cannot listen to Spanish guitar without falling to the floor.
Oh,
He does.
There's something about it. It's just,
I know. And what does Dolly do when I first start talking to him? I realize something about him, and it's like I want to test out music on him. And what's the first thing I sent him? I sent him Spanish guitar music, and he just went to pieces. And I was like, okay. And I mean, like I said, I can read you like a book, and I knew that was coming.
let's talk the paranormal stuff with all this. Is a yogini. Okay. Now you're going to get your paranormal class tonight. Okay.
yay.
Okay. I have been given what we call in Buddhism empowerment, especially in Tibetan Buddhism empowerment. Okay, I have been taught how to put down zombies.
Yeah.
I've been taught how to put down troublesome spirits.
Yep.
I've been taught how to put down those who are possessed by a spirit. When I say put down, not kill, but evacuate the entity. Okay. There's very powerful magic involved. Now, I'll give you an example. In the American monastery that I was in Maryland, I was tranny person, okay, and I was pagan. And remember, all the American monks and nuns used to be Catholics and Baptists and evangelicals and Jewish and all that kind of stuff, right? So when they heard I was a witch, that kind of thing, right? So one night, this is good. You're gonna love this. One night, do we have to break for commercial break?
No, we just run the banner. That's all.
Okay, fine. Okay. So one night, it was El Nino season in the late 90s. Okay, and it's like somebody turned on the shower and walked away. Okay, so we had some people come had arranged for the temple for us to do a fire puja. This is a very, very powerful purge karma and evil stuff and all this kind of stuff. And so we had 35 monks. I'd see eight monks, and the rest were women. So we were about 30 women. And of course, understand I'm a novice. Okay. And the other gal who was the other witch that was with me was also a novice. So the rain is coming down, and the people who do the fire pit, now they do it for a big fire puja. It's a small thing. You do it in a little bowl, not a bowl, but a little cauldron, that type of thing. But on a big deal, this is like the proverbial high mass kind of stuff. They do it in a big pit, concrete pit out in the back, and they got lots of wood out there and kindling and things. And the people who were requesting it bought like $300 or $400 worth of grains, cookies, crackers, anything that's associated with grains, because you make a food offering into the fire. Okay. And and the smoke, they take cedar branches to wave the smoke and things, right? Okay. And this is part of the purging process. Now, who it was for, this is what the fun part is. Okay? And you've never heard this probably anywhere else. The Army had just, because of an act of Congress, the Army had a requirement to be able to allow families to go back as much as 150 years to correct a wrong, like in a court martial or something. Okay. And this was Dr. Mudd was the guy who set John Wilkes Booth's leg after he broke it jumping into Ford Theater.
Right.
Okay? And of course, he was later convicted. He had nothing to do with it. He just set the guy's leg, but they made him a conspirator and all this kind of stuff. But he was tried by a military tribunal, which should never have happened because the district courts were open in D.C. Okay, this is the military tribunal was a way of railroading the guy. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. He was later, for your people who don't know the history, he was sent to a place in the Caribbean. There was an outbreak of yellow fever. He saved a lot of the prisoners and put down the plague in their prison. He was later given a pardon. Okay. what the family wanted to do was they had a major law firm that was petitioning the Army to expunge the records that,
Ooh.
okay, all this stuff. So family was Buddhist, and the attorneys were good with it, and they basically sponsored this huge puja. So we were pulling out all the stops. We were in all our dress robes, all this stuff. Now there's a thing. There's a person, unlike pagan things, there's people who are doing the chanting and the drumming and things, but there's a person called a chopin who will have a little silk scarf in their hands, and they have the incense, and they do this waving thing, special patterns and things like this. And the thing is, when you're doing a big thing like this, and you got all these nuns hanging around doing with nothing to do, it got 5 assistant chopins. I was like the flunkiest one in the group, right? And I was over here at one end, and I took the incense in its wrapper out of the box and handed it to the next lady. She took it out of the cellophane wrapper, handed it to the next person who lit it. And it went down the line till I handed it to the senior chopin. But about an hour before that, senior nun comes to me. This lady was in her 80s. She said, senior teacher, Kempo is the terminology, headmaster, okay, wants you to go outside and turn off the rain for 30 minutes so they can get the fire going in the fire pit, because they can't get it going with the rain coming down this hard. And I looked at her and says, he really asked for that? And she was one of the people who didn't like the witch. And she says, yeah, he specifically said, go get Anitashi and have her go out and turn the rain off for 30 or 40 minutes. Fine. We have a gift shop in the temple. And I went into the gift shop. I asked the nun, go get me a bowl of uncooked rice. Okay. And get a big umbrella for the 2 of us. We're both going to be out there in the rain. She's fine. So I went into the gift shop and he says, you got a big one of those big shell horns. I said, can I borrow that? He says, it's been here on display for 7 years. Nobody's ever been able to blow it. I said, can I borrow it? And she says, yeah, take it, So I tell you, we went outside. I'm doing the chants and I'm doing chanting and everything. I'm doing it my style, though. I'm throwing the rice, I'm making the chants, and I'm blowing the hell out of this horn. Okay, loud. Okay. It was like the sky opened up above the temple. We could see stars. Only the grounds of the temple were not getting rain. Okay. That was gossip for a month. So we're back in here. Now we're back in there. We're doing the little thing, and they're doing the ceremony and everything. And then started raining lightly again, and there started to be some thunder and lightning. And then all of a sudden we had some really big cracks of thunder and really huge amounts of lightning. And the other witch lady leans into me, and Vicky leans into me and says, I've never seen purple lightning before. Then we have another one a couple of minutes later. Cheryl, I've never seen green lightning before. What did you do?
Wow.
The next we got through this whole thing, it was loud. And we didn't lose power. Usually they lose power out there. It was in rural. And next morning I get a phone call from a native medicine guy that I know, Cherokee guy, calls me up, says, Big Bear calls me up, says, hey, Tashi. That's my Buddhist name. And says, hey, Tashi, were you out in Poolsville last night? I says, yeah. He says, I've never seen purple, orange, and green lightning before. Come on over. I want to talk to you. he knew I had done weather magic. So I hit the local pizza shop and sub shop, brought dinner, and he corrected me on some things I had done wrong. But
wow.
Okay, there's magic is real, folks. For your listeners, magic is real. It's not an imaginary thing. The forces of the universe can be harnessed, but you just don't light a few candles and chant a few things. There's a lot more to it, and you've got to be quiet in your head so you can focus and harness it. Okay, that's the hard part to this.
Yeah, well, like you say, it's a technology kind of. It's not like
it is a technology. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Madame.
Your mic, Dolly. You're muted.
Yes.
Yeah.
There she is.
Yeah. Government shuts me down a lot. Does anybody ever tell you what your colors of your aura are? Just interesting to bring up right now for a reason. Whatever energy you throw down into the earth or to open the sky up with, you're using your energy, your power into the earth, and the earth will immediately respond back up into the ceiling above you.
10 or 30 fold, depending on how you do it.
Exactly. And your aura is purple, green, and actually you got red and orange going on at the same time. Like a weird
glitter, a flicker of glitter. I've been told that.
Yeah. And you were literally throwing your energy down and up at the same time, and that's why you created lightning, those colors. That's what happened. Your energy went down because the Earth is a circuit with our solar system, with our sun, and everything is already in play between the two objects anyway. Yep. And if you throw it down, it's going to come back up, and ground to ceiling lightning is usually colored. That's what I want to know, if you all noticed whether it was ground to ceiling lightning, because if it was, that's exactly what you were doing. You were throwing your energy down and up, literally.
I only saw it from a horizontal standpoint.
Yeah.
Through the curtains. That's the best I can remember.
Yeah.
I understand this was in 1999.
Yeah.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, it's weird. People see lightning now that's blue, coming from the ground to the ceiling, or even blood red colored lightning. And that's because they're using technology now that caused that to happen, or our sun is causing it a little bit as well.
Let me tell you another little way of like working with the weather. Okay. First thing, answer Ivan B. Okay. No, I have no plans to do a follow-up set of desk references. Okay. Linda and I sat down with the idea when we planned to do this was to do a sample of the first 20 years of the 21st century. And that's what we did. We've got 52 data books out there, one for every single state. Hey, hang on. And your state, if you go on to Amazon, don't go to Google, go on to Amazon, and you look in your state. Every book is named the same thing: UFOs in your state and where to find them. If you go into the search on Amazon and say UFOs in whatever the name of your state and where to find them, boom, that book will show up. Most of these books are under $15. A couple of the bigger states like Texas, things like that, it's a little more expensive because the book is bigger. It had a lot of pages in it.
Yeah.
No, we only set out to do a 20-year sample. That's what we did. That was our project. I built the pink book. That was the collected book. It only went down to the county level. Okay. During COVID, all dressed up, no place to go, I had told Linda, I'd like that. People had been asking me, can you drill down to maybe the zip code and city level? I figured out how to do it during COVID. Okay. And when we actually started doing conferences again, and people would ask me that question, I told them, I'm planning to do a 50-book series. And she would tell audiences, yeah, I don't believe it. Yeah. She'll never make that happen. Right. And I managed to make it happen in under 18 months. And we put them all up on Amazon in one magical period from Samhain, Halloween, to winter solstice. Okay, so we put all 50 books up. We put up like one, and then we put up in Ohio. Then we put up not that one, but it's one of the state books. But we did. This is what we did was we put up Ohio first. Mm-hmm. Figured out what kinks we had with our publishing process. Linda made her all her notes. We put up Michigan the next time because we were hoping to get to get taken to one of the Michigan events. And then the week after that, I started putting up 5 a week. I gave her 5 all set up to go. And all she had to do is do the registration and we put the ISBN numbers in and everything. And then when we got down, we had done 30 of the books over that 6-week period. I got down to a point where I said, I can give you 10. And then next week, 10, and we'll be done. And we did all of it in that one magical period. It was considered a magical working as far as we were concerned. And so we don't plan to do another one. Linda's got one more book in her. It's not a data book. It's hard to explain, but it's a thoughtful book. I've got one more book in me. That's a thoughtful book as well. Okay. But when I get around to it right now, I'm designing a puppet show. Okay, so I'm busy. I'm finishing another spy novel. I got a collection of my mysteries coming out, and I got a collection of my weird, fantastic, and disturbing stories coming out. So I'm busy, guys.
All right, I want to pop up a question from Michael.
Sure.
He's asking about any Navy USO incidents that you were aware of while you were out there.
Yet.
She won't talk about it, Michael, because that's off limits. She has
No,
NDA.
I don't. No.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
If my submarine picked up a USO, I don't know about it. And
Okay.
I was in the intel team, but even that is compartmented. Okay. So what the sonar guys would have heard, it would have been underwater anyway. Okay. But I've never heard any of them talk about that. And the intel team, I would have heard about it, but I didn't hear about it.
Yeah, something like that spreads fast among the crew. I've talked to a few people who were involved in USO incidents, and everyone on the submarine knew about it.
Oh, yeah.
No,
we did not have, to my knowledge, we had nothing to do with that. And our captain was, there were 3 of us on my ship who had gifts. Okay. And I didn't realize they knew. Okay. And I ended up on this strange plot, battle stations plot in the control room. And it was called this time range plot. And I did it. I didn't think, they got targeting computers and sonar and all this fancy tech going on. There's guys up there plotting the dot and everything. And I thought, I'm doing the most useless thing over here. Okay. And then one day, a comment came over the overhead speaker system. We've lost the contact, sir. Okay. They looked at the fire control team. Where is he? Sir, our model's breaking down too. Okay. And so within about 90 seconds, all of the tracking models had gone down. Captain looked over at me and says, Costa, where are they? And they just translated that to what the bearings were, and that's where they were.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had an offer to get off the boat and go to a different type of submarine, and we were overmanned in my department. It should have been easy. Okay, because what had happened was we were down in the Bermuda Sound range. Okay. And we were down there with what they call PCOs. These are guys like there are executive officers, and their next assignments, they're going to have their own ship. Okay. So they're going to, and there was an admiral there who was their instructor and all this kind of stuff. So all the people on our shifts were basically doing our job, but as if that guy on our shift was the captain. Okay. Well, one night, we were out there doing what we called angles and angles. We're going around like this. And Bermuda Sound Range, they got like a 10-mile football field, and they put the submarines in. They're going across, and the thing sooner or later they're going to have to engage each other, and we would launch dummy torpedoes at them. And the dummy torpedo is about a 1.5-ton machine that drives at about 45, 50 miles an hour. So it can make a real bang if it hits you and doesn't explode. Okay. So what happened was one night, I looked up at the acting CO, and I looked at him and I says, "Shutter doors, high-speed screws in the water, sir." And about 2 seconds later, the sonar guys are reporting high-speed screws in the water, shutter nor noises. And and he started taking evasive action. He got yelled at because, I know he didn't get yelled at till the next night. So the next night, he comes to me, he says, "I don't care if you hear a fly fart, I want you to tell me what you're sensing." So same kind of thing happened the next night. And I was sitting there saying, high speed, Captain, shutter doors, high speed screws in the water. And then a moment later I said, aft. And the thing didn't shut down, and it hit us in the back end of the ship by the hatch. So we had actually had to stop everything, surface, and inspect the area around the hatch to make sure it wasn't damaged.
Yeah. Okay.
So he came to me the next day and said, "Would you like to come to the boat I'm going to?"
I bet he did.
Our ship had a 60% divorce rate because we had 55 days in home port. We were kind of special, And I said, "Sure, my shop's over, man. Yeah, go ahead, And he came back to me 2 days later, and we'd gone back into port, and he came back to me 2 days later, and he says, "Casa, your CO won't let you go." I says, Did he say why? My shop's overmanned. He says, no, but he made a crack to me. He says, none of my canaries are leaving the ship.
Ah, yeah,
Oh.
that'll happen. That's right. I know. This has got to be part of developed psychic abilities, because I have a lot in common with you with this. Okay, I have many instances, and I can't talk about them, where I am already on it. You know, I already know I am anticipating it's already happening in my head, and I know it. And I've avoided some very complicated situations because of that. Literally,
It's that sense of, oh, duck.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, yes. Oh, you know, go down. One of the biggest ones that happened to me, when I was in college, I was a security guard, and I was in a mobile unit, a car, and I patrolled a big executive park for Wells Fargo. Okay, it's 2:30 in the morning.
Can't hear you, Dolly.
Can't hear you.
I don't know why you're not muted. No.
Nope. Nope. You're muted.
Now you're muted.
You're muted.
No, you're still muted.
Still muted.
All right. Okay.
There.
There you are.
Okay, so I'm in the mobile park, and I pull over for a second because I'm messing with the radio, and I want to listen to a radio song. And yeah, I start to pull over, and something said duck. And I went down because my whole body was like, you're in trouble, duck right now. The entire back end of my back window, glass shrapnel hit the front, hit me in the back of my head, and blew out my windshield. Okay, now I'm not stupid. I did not sit back up. I kept it in drive, and I drove blindly, praying to God that I knew where I was going. And I managed to make it 3 roads over in the park without looking. Okay. I pulled out my revolver, and I had a 45. I'm not playing. Most guards have 38s. I owned a 45. Okay. And I came up, and I stuck my hand out the back window, and I just broadcast, make my day. Go ahead, make my day. I'm dead aiming at you. I can tell you're there. And for some reason, I heard a vehicle storm off and go the other way. I'm on the radio at the same time calling for help. I had cops everywhere, all over DeKalb County in Atlanta. The guy got there, and he said, he said, you should be dead. And I said, no, you know what, Sherlock. And he said, how did that happen? And he said, what made you duck? And I just looked at him, and I said, I don't know. I had a bad feeling, and I did. And he said, well, it saved your life. These are the kind of situations that I've come out of in my lifetime. My captain was freaking out. They took me off that patrol. Literally took me off the patrol. And he said, I know why it happened. About a month before that, I caught somebody breaking into one of the buildings. They had already gone in. They were trying to rip off this company. And I locked them in. I locked down the elevators, and I locked the doors on the outside and called for help, and they were caught. Okay. And, you have to debrief after everything.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's horrible. And he says, one of them doesn't like you apparently, and they sent somebody to off you. And I said, well, at least now you know who they are, Yeah. And I got
to write a book about this, actually.
Yeah.
Supernatural survival. There's a lot of instances.
I know.
One that comes to my mind is these kids were hiking in the woods, friends. One of the kids suddenly rushes over to the other one. They're standing there and pushes the guy over. He jumps up like, what the heck did you do that for? And he says, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know why I did it. Crash. The tree goes down right where he was standing. Would have crushed him. Like, they all completely freaked out.
Yeah.
But that's supernatural survival. We got something going on in here.
After Vietnam and being in boats like you have, submarines and everything, and you're still here talking to us, I know you got it, because the situations that you could have been in were probably pretty serious from time to time. Anything can come at you in situations like
Your
that.
radar goes on high alert.
Premonitions can tell you things. Okay.
Yep.
And you can look this up, folks. Cameron Bay Air Force Base, Vietnam. Okay. I think 25 August 1971. Okay. Cameron Bay ammo dump. Okay. Tri-Services ammo dump. A sapper got in. Viet Cong sapper got into the ammo dump. Now, this was no small one because Camera Bay was a port and depot area. So we had the largest ammo dump in the country.
Oh, wow.
Okay? And I've been told that it was one of the largest ammo dumps, active ammo dumps in the world at that time. Okay. Got in, planted it on a sack, on a rack of 500-pound bombs, and it went off. And then they said this thing, boom. And then this Jeep comes down, and I'm standing outside of my barracks. We had seen the fireball. And the guy says, the whole dump's going to go up. Get everybody out of the barracks. We had to get down into the concrete revetments. And everybody laughed at us until the next rack of bombs went off.
Yeah.
Man, it was like rats leaving a ship, And we were out there for over 12 hours. Boom.
Oh,
boom,
my God.
boom.
Yeah.
The concussion, if you were standing up, if one of these things, you could see the shock wave.
Right. Yep.
And within about 10 seconds, it would literally knock, if you were standing up, it would knock the wind out of you and literally lift you off your feet and drop you. Okay. I was 105 pounds in those days. I was a squirrely little guy. Okay. And I kept having all these 250-pound sergeants falling on me. And at one point, we had a whole bunch of what they call, there's two names for them, daisy cutters and cheese cutters. These are 3,000-pound bombs that are used to clear emergency landing spots for helicopters in the jungle. A C-130 drops the thing by parachute down into the jungle. When it blows up, it opens up an area big enough to land a helicopter and evacuate troops. Okay. Wow. And so a 3,000-pound bomb, that's a big deal. Okay. That would take out a city block, a residential city block in a heartbeat. Yep. Okay. All right. So we had to rack them go. Okay. And the concussion, knocking the wind, these guys laying on me, my face buried in the sand. I thought to myself at that moment, on that night, I said, I'm going to die here. Okay. Mm-hmm. The next really big one that happened was almost as bad. Went down, and I don't want to say I blacked out, but I had a premonition. I was standing on a Catholic altar, and this gray-haired guy was leading this bride to me and handing her off. And the strangest thing was, everybody was sitting on the left-hand side of the church, and there was nobody sitting on the right-hand side of the church. I thought, in a surrealistic dream, nothing's ever right, 19 months later, that was my wedding.
Oh.
So you had a premonition you were going to make it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it went down exactly that way, because when everybody got to that small little country church that we got married in, everybody knew everybody else from both families. They all sat on the same side of the church.
There you go. Wow. There you go.
Wow.
Yep.
Who knew?
That's kind of cute. Wow.
So this psychic stuff, a lot of people say, hey, wow, I wish I had that. Let me tell you. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. Later on in field, what I'm going to call field service, it got me out of a lot of goofy jams. Okay. It's just in your instinct said, run now, that kind of thing. Okay. A couple of people stopped me, and they didn't look like locals. And then I realized they were, and then when they started talking to each other, they were speaking Russian, which I understood at that point. And at that point, I realized, oh my gosh, these guys have a couple of T-44s in their pockets. So I'm sitting there going, oh no, but it was every place I've ever had a very dangerous thing to get out of. If I relaxed and controlled my breathing, I just knew the way out.
Yep. Yep. Never faltered from it. Never in my life. I always went the way I needed to go. Always.
Yeah.
It's a weird habit.
It's your instincts and act on them.
Yep. Yeah. You learn to act on them. But a lot of people, too many people in especially our Western training,
They hesitate. I know. They try to,
or they just say, "Nah, I'm going to go anyway." And that's when they get into trouble. If you have a sense you shouldn't go, don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. One of the dumbest things that ever happened to me. I was in transportation and I was also in munitions. Okay, and the transportation part was we supported the 75th Ranger Regiment on Fort Benning then at Fort Moore now. And we had to go out to Eagle Range, which is one of their training areas, and it's heavily wooded. And we got these huge buses. Now, before we left, I got my screwdrivers out and I took my mirrors off, completely off the bus, put them in the compartment. And they're all watching me like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "You should be doing it too." And they're like, "Why? We'll be fine." I'm like, no. You're wrong. You're going to be messed up if you don't take them off. Now, I've never been out there yet. This is my first time going out there, but I knew I'm not stupid. I had the premonition. Take the damn mirrors off, okay? And we get out there. Now, I'm not lead driver this time. I'm 3 back, okay? And the lead driver went in and could not get out. Everybody's freaking out. We're not where we're supposed to be. We're running out of time, and we got the radio blaring at us. And I took my screwdriver off my bus and went and undid his mirrors, okay? And I said, "This is how you're going to get out." And he said, "You can't do this." And I said, "Get out of the seat." And he looked at me and I said, "I outrank you. Get out of the seat." And he got out. And I got that damn bus out of there, and everybody else backed up, and we went the way I said to go. Okay, so when we got there, we get yelled at. This used to happen to me a lot. I would take over sometimes because these guys are idiots sometimes. And when we got there, the CO looked at me and he said, he's looking at my bus, and suddenly he's looking at everybody else's buses, and he's like, "Where are the mirrors?" And everybody's pointing at me. And he said, "You did that?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I'm not stupid. Is that okay?" And he went, No, that's perfectly fine." And he was like, "You left me alone after that." He was like, "Okay." I find out from my captain when I get back, he said, "Well, you just put a mark on the bulletin board. I'm not sure you want on there." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, they're watching you now." And I said, "Why?" And he says, "Well, guess what you're going to go do?" And I said, "I don't know. What am I going to go do?" This is when I got put up for munitions and I had to go get my hazmat certification. I had to take classes and everything. He says, "You're going for hazmat." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because you know what to do." I don't know. And I did it. I went, okay. It's a damn good thing I learned all that stuff. I was very good at it. Okay. And it just amazed me that I kept getting myself in weird kind of trouble. It followed me around. I got put in situations that I ordinarily would not have gone to because they were watching how I was reacting to things. They looked for that. I found out later that that's exactly what all these guys are looking for. They're looking for guys like you and me who are sensitive and know stuff. And I went into dead shock. I said, "Is this a thing?" And he said, "Absolutely, it's a thing. They're not stupid."
Yeah. There's a reason why a lot of police detectives are actually psychic. This turns up too.
I got trained. They kind of tagged me back in. Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. They tagged me back at Lackland. You go to boot camp there, and you're supposed to go. You're supposed to go to tech school someplace. Yeah. My orders was for the base comm squadron, literally across the street from where my boot camp barracks was.
Yeah.
And but the bottom was somebody recognized that there was this gift, and besides getting, standard training was an M16 in those days and a 45. Okay, a 1911 A1. Okay. And so at one point I get in the comm squadron guy says, desk guy says, a couple of weeks later, he says, "They want to go down there and qualify with M16 again. And I think they're going to have you take a class on something else." I said, "Huh?" I'm a lineman. What are you, you're putting me through lineman school here. So I went down there and they taught me they gave me a short class on an M21. Which was the go-to sniper rifle at that time in 1971, 72 time frame. The Kate didn't come along for another 20 years. Okay. And so I said, "Okay, fine." And after I qualified with it, basic qualification, I shot nearly expert. Okay. And a couple of weeks later, they called me up and says, "We want you to go on a night maneuver with us." Okay. And I said, so I went with them, and they gave me the M21. He says, there's a target out there. We want you to find it. I says, there's no light. There's nothing out there. He says, the guy looks at me. He says, yeah, we're told you can find it other ways. And this was long before Obi-Wan Kenobi says,
Right,
"Please help with your feelings, Luke."
Yeah.
And so I just sat there quiet, got myself very quiet, and I said, "Is it orange?" And they looked at each other kind of funny. I says, "Yeah." I says, "Yeah, it's over there," and I said, "You sure there's nobody out there? Because I'm going to be shooting into the blind," But I hit it, and that was the last that got said about it. It was weird. You're right. They were always checking out who the freaking canaries were.
That's right.
Wow.
I know, it's creepy. I've had some weird, serious situations with this stuff. One of the things I used to do on the weekends, if I had to work and it was a weekend and it was like a holiday, there's nobody on base. Nobody. Okay. They're all gone.
Yeah. Place empty.
Yeah. And I said, I want to drive the shuttle bus. And he said, you want to what? And I said, I need a vacation. I want to drive the shuttle bus. He said, okay, fine. He gave me the keys, put my mission on that. And I'm driving a shuttle bus, and on the base, it's part of the base is called the Rock of the Marne. It's where the tanks are. Okay. Before we got more later on in years later. And I'm driving up to it, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, you need to get out of the bus. You need to pull over and take a 15-minute break. So I called and said, I'm getting a 15-minute break. He said, okay. It was a good place for me to pull over. And I pulled over and I stepped down and I looked and I saw this guy walking. And I'm like, that's my target. Something about this guy is not right. Yeah. And it wasn't just him. It was that he was in danger. I didn't really understand it until I saw the direction he was walking. And I'm looking at the picnic table where I wanted to go sit. Right. And I looked down on the ground and there it was. And the idiot was headed straight for it. He saw it too. And I screamed at him, do not touch it. Stop, drop. Okay. And he's like, what's going on? And I said, that's primer cord, no touch. And I called it into the fire department on the base, and they came screaming over there with guys. And he said, how did you tell that was primer cord? And I said, because I'm in munitions and I know. And he's staring at me and he said, that was real primer cord. That guy would have died.
What's primer cord?
It's what sets certain types of munitions off. And it's plastique is in them, and you could vaporize your body with a primer cord in your hand.
If you took a little bit of primer cord and wrapped it around a small tree and set it off remotely, it would just cut the tree in half.
Yeah. That's how bad it is.
All right.
And my CO.
We're both delicate ladies, as you can tell.
Yeah.
It's amazing to watch you two banter about this. Like, oh my God.
It's amazing. I know. It's so weird. I always looked like a guy when I was younger. I'm older now, so I'm sort of paring down. But in my prime, they used to call me Red Sonja. Okay. I could whoop ass, and I looked like I could whoop ass. Very, very military looking. I'm a big, brawly girl. And at one point, I had to shave my head because I was doing things that I had to go do. Okay. And so I needed to look like a guy. And my CO said, can you sound like a guy? And I said, sure, no problem. And I let this voice out, and he said, oh my God, where did that come from? I said, from my dad. I learned it from him. It's like, okay. Nobody ever suspected that I wasn't a girl. Nobody. The whole time I was in that mission, nobody knew I wasn't a girl. Nobody. And it amazes me. And I used to think, I was confused when I was growing up. Am I a girl? Am I a boy? Am I a girl? What the hell am I doing here? Okay. And I decided I was a girl, but I have boy characteristics because I like to play war. I like to do crazy. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm very, very, it's weird. I learned to shoot,
both, ultimately.
All of it.
I want to pop up a few more questions before we run out of time.
Please, I want to say one thing for Amadeus. Okay. Hey, thank you for your service.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Because this is an interesting question. From Eric Petersman, is it possible that there are, quote, brand new souls on Earth, or are we all recycled, reincarnated? Like, is anyone coming to Earth for the first time? I mean, I suppose it's possible, but no, we're all from source. So we're all been an entity. This is my take on it.
Eternity's a long time. We all been
Yeah.
here. It's possible this is your first round here. If you're that confused and you're that freaked out, maybe. I don't know.
I just remember a scene
You'd be
from
able to tell that
Friends
story,
where,
though. You're the only one who can dive deep into yourself to figure that out.
you know, the sitcom Friends with Phoebe always had past lives, and she turns to Joe. He's like, well, what about my past lives? And she patted it and says, no, this is your first time. I don't know.
Okay. Remember, life force is life force is life force. Okay.
Right.
Notice that we have less animals in the world. We have less insects dying off. There are ascensions coming into precious human rebirth.
Right.
Okay. And they're not coming here. If they do come here from someplace else, they're sort of getting captured by our biosphere and the karma of our biosphere. So, we just keep recycling here. And what we're born back in, it is, if you're really a screw up in your lifetime, you can end up at what we call a lower rebirth, which gets you back into the animal realms or get you back into the insect realms. But if you're a relatively good person, you probably won't have that kind of a rebirth and have a precious human rebirth.
Yeah.
All right.
Other question. I'll take questions, please.
Here's another one that's kind of related to that from Arvo. Would you say that developing your spirit includes shedding all forms of identity and attachments?
Okay. It's not so much all your attachments. That's overkill. Okay. You got to be able to function here. I mean, technically, when I became a Buddhist nun, I wasn't supposed to handle money. And I looked at my lama. I says, I have to work with plastic and things. I have a Western job. I worked every day at Lockheed Martin. There were two of us that worked for Lockheed Martin, and we were in Buddhist nun robes going to headquarters every day to Dalai Lama for 7 years. We pushed the diversity policy to the bleeding edge. But no,
I mean, you retain your talents from life to life.
Some of you do. Some you do. Here's your good explanation. That 4-year-old explain a concert pianist. You think? That guys like Mozart. Some of these early guys back in the 13th, 14th century that are writing complex symphonies when they were 8 or 14.
Right.
Come on. But on the other hand, they don't have the distractions. They don't have cell phones. They don't have computers. They don't have Facebook. They don't have, any of this stuff. But some things, some things, I'll give you one example. I was in 2nd grade. Okay. Good Catholic boy. Remember. Okay. And my father came home from work one day. I was allowed to use his wood shop tools. Couldn't use the power tools, but any hand tool I was allowed to use. Okay. And one day he came home, and one of my uncles was with him, my maternal uncles was with him, and they saw me in the backyard, and I had a crossbow, a rather nice one. And they said, "Where did you get that?" I said, "I made it."
Ooh!
How does a second grader know how to make a crossbow?
Oh, I'm impressed. Oh my God!
So they're looking at me, and my uncle's looking the thing over, and he's quite a woodsworker. And he says, "How did you know how to do this?" I said, "The Swiss guy in my head showed me how." That's the old memory.
That's amazing. That's totally cool. I used to ask myself a lot, is it my ego that I have to deal with more to give up, to drop, let it go? Okay. Or is it what I am profoundly, I wouldn't call it attachment. I would call it an obsession. Okay. What do I obsess about? It's not attachments. You can love somebody and be attached to them. That's an attachment. You can be attached to loving an animal. That's an attachment.
It's the distraction.
Yes. It's a distraction, and obsessions tend to distract you more than anything else. Okay. Yes. And so I started trying to understand that that's where I want to work on it. And then I woke up one day and I realized, well, maybe it's not just that. There's no game plan for every single person. We all have a different path. It's a different plan for everybody. And you come here for the exact reason that you're here. And a lot of people don't realize that your accomplishment isn't becoming wealthy or well-known or any of that stuff. Those are just things we can do.
Let me give you one thought.
Okay.
People ask me, what is the way?
Okay.
And the easiest answer, one of my other yogini friends and I both agree with this. The obstacle is the way.
That's it.
The thing that is giving you the trouble, that is the way.
Exactly.
And it may sound
an opportunity. They're synonyms, and
there's challenges with the
right.
dealing with the obstacle and everything that goes with it, the emotions, the senses of failure, all of that stuff, how you compensate, how you deal with it. Okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I tell people, if you really want to know this stuff about yourself, start learning to quiet yourself. I don't mean you have to sit there for hours in some temple someplace meditating. I don't do that. I do 45 minutes to an hour every day. Okay. Back when I was in the monastery, it took me 2 years to get to 45 minutes. I could do 90 minutes standing on my head now, but I only need maintenance meditation now. So I do about 45 minutes a day. And to make sure I'm not disturbed,
right.
I put on my sleeping mask, and I have a pair of shotgun muffs. Okay. And I literally cut off all the sound. Okay. So I've got a nice quiet environment. I can either lay down or I can sit in a comfortable chair that's got a stiff back. I don't get in the lazy boy. You're going to go to sleep. But if you sit down in that nice dining room chair, it's got a good stiff back, and just maintain yourself. And you just got to be careful you don't fall asleep, because you'll fall off the chair and hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the hardest part about it. But start learning to quiet yourself, and you'll start becoming aware of things. Now, consciously, not necessarily, but what it comes out to be is you start becoming aware that you're sitting here shooting the breeze with me or Dolly, and suddenly you know how to work with an M16 and you've never touched one, or you know how to work with a carbine from the First World War or something like this, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And that's the deal. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to quiet yourself. And here's the problem. The obstacle. Everything in our Western society is set up. You hear these stories about 4 and 5-year-old kids revealing who they were in the past life and how many kids they had. And then when they check this out, like in India or Pakistan, they go and check it out. And by God, that's exactly who it is, right?
Yep.
The trick is our Western culture is completely set up to distract you. We want to sell you a hamburger. We want to sell you some cigarettes. We want to sell you a new 20-minute commercials, things. Okay? We want to distract you. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you told me if you told me back in Catholic school that we would have these little things, okay, constantly chattering at us, okay, I've turned off most feeds. I don't get most feeds, okay, and in fact, I'm actually to the point where I'm about ready to go back to a flip phone. I don't want the distraction.
You say exactly what I do, Cheryl. I'm not kidding you. I love you. We had to be best friends or sisters or something in past lives. You say the same things I do. I say it a little bit differently, but I tell people all the time, if you want to go into yourself, you have to go within to go without. And it means shut up, shut your mind down, let it go free, let it become blank, because the universe is very chatty and it'll tell you anything you want to know. And you have to learn how to become the singularity yourself. You have to shut it down.
And you can't do it overnight.
No, it takes a long time. You said for you it took 2 years.
I tell my students. I had a class of students 2 years ago. I had 50 of them in the class. We were teaching to new pagans, so to speak, over at the UU church that I a part-time chaplain with. And I told them, I said, okay, I want you to learn to meditate. Now, I said, I'm not asking you to go spend hours and hours and hours someplace, that kind of thing. No, I said, I want you to I don't even want you using your phone to do this. I want you to mute your phone. I'd like you to go to a supermarket and buy yourself one of the little electronic egg timers. Okay. And I want you to meditate for a minute or two a day. And I don't have time. Well, do it on the can at lunchtime at work.
You can squeeze in 5 minutes.
Sit on the throne. You only got to do this for 2 minutes.
Right.
But I warn you now, it will be the longest 2 minutes of your life the first couple of times you do it, right?
Right.
And I said, well, when will you try and go for more time? I said, in about 3 months, let's see if we can work you up to 5, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah. I try to tell people to write in a book, write their experiences down. Every time they try this, they need to write down how they felt.
Absolutely. Keep a journal book on what you did when you were trying to be quiet.
And then now, because of the way electronics are and everything, if you're in a big building and there's electricity all around you, get the hell out of that building. Go sit outside. In the evening, it's good, dark, it's a nice place. Stay out of the wind. Meditate.
Well, that's if you want to perceive something. If you're just trying to be quiet.
Right. Well, it's
okay.
You have to turn off the Wi-Fi. You have
my mom took us into a discotheque one night and says, okay, learn to be quiet here.
Yeah. I can. Well, you can eventually do that. I can meditate anywhere now, anytime of the day.
Stand here.
Okay. But you have to learn that road. You have to go down that road so that you can get to it. And it's amazing what you can do, because people can be screaming and yelling and shooting each other and everything, and you're as calm as a rose in a garden. And it's because you're focused. You're able to take that, all that crazy around you and slow it down and look at it for what it really is and focus your attention to what you need to see.
Yeah, you start to look forward to it. It might be hard at first, but soon you're like, gosh, I need my 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Well, my spouse will say, sometimes when I'm sitting here writing, she'll say, have you done your afternoon meditation or nap or whatever it is you do? Oh no, I haven't. Go. I'll hit save on everything because I'm a writer. So I'll hit save and I'll go do it. But sometimes doing the writing and everything, it overwhelms me and I need to go and do it and sort of do a mental flush.
Yeah.
Okay. But the problem and answer start at the same time. Yeah, agreed. But the thing is, the more you quiet yourself, the more you fight. I don't say fight. The more you try to quiet your life, the more you start becoming aware of a lot of stuff around you.
Right.
Okay, that's the only way I can explain it. It's not just psychic stuff. It's just
everything,
nuances and things like this. It helped me a tremendous amount in certain kinds of work I did for the government, because I was just aware of a lot more stuff going on around us.
Right. Yeah. You're not walking through a minefield terrified of what you might hit. You're aware of all of it at the same time, and you're able to navigate through it. What's amazing to me is that 5-year-olds in kindergarten are taught to lay down and take a nap. Okay. To be quiet, to rest, to clear their minds.
Yep, I remember.
Why the heck do we stop doing that throughout our lifetime? Our whole society blanks that out and lets people just be crazy.
It's time for us to get up and make widgets.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to pop up another question because we're almost out of time.
Do it.
Okay. This is from Arvo. How intentional do you think the quote "forgetting the history of the soul" is? Because people come in and they have, we remember as little babies. But it seems like there's a lot of people walking around with absolutely no.
Remember our cultures, particularly the audience we have here. Our parents would sit us down in a high chair and turn on the damn idiot box.
Right.
Constantly bombarded. And psychologists have figured out that was not a good thing, because the continuous change of imagery and things like this was it did damage to the children. Okay.
Messed their minds up. Yeah.
Yeah, so we need to be a quieter culture, okay? And the problem is our culture is completely set up to distract you. You can't walk into a restaurant anymore and there aren't 5 or 10 screens either running sports stuff and news channels and things like this.
Yeah.
I had to demand once at my health service. They had a waiting room. We were all going there. Almost everybody there was for lab work, and it was when Hezbollah was bombing the snot out of the Israelis about 10 years ago, and a couple of us were former vets. We were just getting freaked, And we went over and said, well, you do please turn that off. Oh, we can't turn that off. So get a hold of your public relations department and come down here and change it, or we're going to have the newspaper come down here. You're going to have a riot. We're former vets, and you shouldn't be subjecting us to combat.
That's right.
And that was the issue.
It affects your blood results as well. If you're going for blood tests and you're being annoyed or distracted or put in pure fear or triggered for any reason whatsoever, your blood values change because it causes the internal part of your body to send out a response that you're in fight or flight. Okay?
I break into bloody noses.
Yeah, man, exactly.
So the only TV, we only watch about 3 hours of TV in the household, and it's mostly British murder mysteries. I do like Pennyworth. Okay, we watch that, and we are now on streaming. We're now going back and reviewing how many seasons of X-Files. But we both Linda and I, my wife Linda and I, very carefully control and curate what we're going to watch. Yep. Because she knows what will set me off.
I like to watch prepping shows and shows about living off grid, people who build cabins or people who have farms. I like to watch horse stuff because I love horses. It's a thing, cows, anything like that. All of it. I just stream it onto the TV. Otherwise, it's Big Bang Theory or Friends. And even them,
I get it.
I don't want to be bombarded by this. I do watch news because I have a lot of bugging me about stuff. Saying
any other questions, or are we off?
We're pretty much out of time. But one quick question, because this guy asked it early. UFO Research Playlist question for Cheryl. As someone who is religious, and I'm not sure if he's talking about himself or you, but
just go ahead.
What is your response to skeptics that accuse ufology as being a form of New Age religious belief? How has religion informed your study of UFOs?
Life permeates the universe, and the universe is alive, and life permeates it. And you look at those James Webb telescope pictures that look like a sky full of stars, and they're all galaxies. There's a lot of life out there, and we're connected to every bit of it. You're connected to everyone, everywhere, every when.
Right.
Trust me. Okay. And I teach that to my Buddhist and my craft students, because it's important that they understand just how deep the connectiveness goes. You can't turn on a light without casting a shadow, baby.
That's right. So. Exactly.
Come back anytime you like.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to have to shut it down for tonight. That was so awesome, Cheryl. Thanks so much. You're just amazing.
That's Vidanya, everybody.
Okay. Check out Cheryl's books, guys. There's quite a few of them. Here's one: Second Oldest Profession, UFO Sightings Desk Reference, Magical Musings of a Rogue Witch. UFOs. Well, we just saw that one.
All available on Amazon. Have it to you in a couple of days.
The UFO Beat. There's a bunch of them. Charmaine's Tales of Wonder.
There's another one coming out.
All the UFOs in various states. And Gadzooks and Ophelia. I mean,
those are my plays. Those are some of my plays. Yeah.
So the Debriefing, True Magic with a K, The Meeting, a comedy in one act, Barbara and Diane, all kinds of stuff out there, guys. So check it out. And thanks again, Cheryl. Amazing.
You're coming back. You're coming back. We're already going to set it up. Stay for a few minutes afterwards so we can put dates down.
No worries. I'll sit tight.
Okay. Wait, I want to give a shout out to the people who donated. Thank you, guys. Namaste. Raul Melendez, you guys, Star Orchid. Couldn't do it without you guys, Bob. So thankful. Lunar Dove, you guys are amazing. All of you guys in chats were just lovely tonight. Thank you. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. All right, Dolly, I'm now ready.
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl, for coming. Thank you so much for all your wisdom and everything that you're teaching here tonight. I love every last bit of it. I'm sure our group does too. Y'all, if you want to comment after the show is over, Cheryl will be able to go comment in the comments after the show ends, if she's got time. Okay. We're coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in the state of Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Facebook. We are on Roku. We are on Rumble, and we are on YouTube. We love you all very much. Namaste, everybody. Be in joy. Find your way. You will. I love y'all. See you next Monday.
Bye, everyone.